gods, ancestor spirits, folk creatures, household deities, nature spirits, and so on, what are kind of all together called metahumans or metapersons. These are microorganisms. Now, microbiology is not a mythoclast. It does not explain away these metapersons. What's happening is that microbiology is unequipped to study what it observes. The reason being is that microbes are inherently spirit beings, and they are immortal. So they're living in lifespans and timescales that we ourselves are not familiar with, that we can't comprehend. So these microbial beings, these metapersons, they exist through everything. Everything subsists because of them, and they also persist beyond themselves. And all this together is called the cosmic polity, which is humans and their non-human agents and constituents living in this hierarchical dynamic, in which you have spirits, gods, deities, ancestors, and so on, these metapersons dispensing and distributing all these resources. And so this cosmic polity functions through biological markets, which is the exchange of resources and information. This is the cycle of predation, the food chain, and the food web. And so everything from you getting an infection, you're receiving information at the same time. The infecting agent is receiving information, and it's receiving resources. And so there's this constant exchange, even from predator to prey. The predator is receiving resources from the prey, and the prey is learning information. And that information is going to be relevant to the rest of its kin. Why? Because what persists beyond the animal that exists as part of the animal is these microbial beings, these metapersons. And they're going to share the story of that animal, of this ecological exchange of information and resources. The way anthropologists usually describe the ancient world is that they lived in this enchanted world, and these past people had this magical thinking. Now, they don't realize it, but that's actually a neurologically grounded assessment, because animism is not a belief system or religion. It's the way the mind works. It's a sensory experience. Animism is the result of both hemispheres of the brain in communication, as long as the full synesthetic experience being intact, being maintained, which is that the brain communicates information between its different sensory processing regions across each hemisphere. So this information from these biological markets within this cosmic polity is being processed in dynamic ways in which you have different layers of dimensions between how your brain's processing between left and right hemisphere, between different sensory experiences. So what that should sound like to you is a normal, healthy human brain, one that's operating how it's supposed to. And that is exactly right. So animism is the way that the brain is supposed to work, and the way that it has all throughout human biology, all throughout evolution. This is why children are born animists, because until about the age of 8, the brain maintains its hemispheric connection as well as its synesthetic networks. Those get pruned back based off of how we teach information, based off of how they're raised, in the way that we learn print literacy and other kinds of more logic-based information. So we favor one hemispheric way of thinking along very distinct and discrete pathways of information, and so strangle that animism within the brain. And then we have anthropologists, historians, medical professionals, scientists of every field of study not being animists, not having their brain function the way that it is, the way that it ought to, studying this information. I'm going to read a couple excerpts so that you know what I'm talking about, so hopefully we can be on the same page. It is the spirit powers that make the gardens grow in the first place. The outcome, good or bad, is always their work, and their intervention must be ritually solicited for crops to grow anywhere, even where there is little or no risk of failure. As it were, the whole economy runs on spirit power. Such spirit powers form the preconditions of human existence, in the sense that the metahuman others are the essential sources and agents of human welfare and ill-fare. The gods, ghosts, and ancestors, the indwelling persons of plants and animals, are structurally preposed to the action that they potentiate, engaged beforehand by means ranging from spell and sacrifice to the ministrations of spirit-possessed shamans or divinely inspired kings. In a wide array of societies, people are surrounded, outnumbered, and subordinated to an eternal cosmic population of metahuman beings endowed with life and death powers over them. As is reported from the New Guinea highlands, it is common anthropological testimony that spirits rule the life of men. There is simply no profane field of life where they don't find themselves surrounded by a supernatural force. It should become apparent in the discussions to follow that the various cosmic denizens are not only interacting with the human population, but often in certain ways with each other, even as all operate in a unified field of divine life and death force. The entirety forms what could be called the cosmic polity. Spirits are the true owners of things and goods of this world, so famously claimed Marcel Mauss. It is with them that exchange is necessary. It is from the gods that we must buy, and they know how to repay the price of things. The dominance of a species master or game master over species upon which humans subsist effectively puts these people also under the spirit owner's control, because they will have to negotiate their access to the desired animals, as well as obey the master's rules regarding the respectful treatment of the remains. As an example, in 1924, an older Naskapi man, adopting the voice of Messinek, the moose fly master of the fish, explained to Frank Speck what his powers entailed. Messinek, I am called, the one who is master of the fish. I support them. You Indians will be given fish. You who do as required are given fish, not him who wastes them. Here's another example. Avatet people are well aware that to cultivate yams successfully, they have to be planted in the right kind of soil and tended properly while growing. These skills are everyday common knowledge of adult men and women. They know how yams grow. But Avatet religion, Harrison says, poses and answers a different question: why yams grow successfully, and to whom the social and political credit is owed. Inasmuch as they neither made nor control the relevant processes of photosynthesis, let alone the qualities of the soil or the weather, Avatet people do not produce or create the yams. Rather, they receive them from ancestors in remote villages who are responsible for their growth. That is, from beyond the world of sense and inaccessible to practical, uninitiated knowledge. The credit and prestige thus do not go to the cultivators so much as to the clan authorities who hold the secret ritual knowledge by means of which yams are released from their ancestral sources. In his well-known study of newer religion, Evan Pritchard formulated the principle succinctly. It is in the nature of the conception of spirit that what is distributed in a number of beings is, though different, yet the same, and though divided, yet a whole. Deng, the spirit, has several forms, but they are all the same Deng. And Deng may be in a number of different prophets at the same time, each of whom is Deng, without Deng being in any way divided. This world is enchanted, but you won't be able to see that until you restore brain function, until you can animate again.